All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to another live stream. I want to make sure you all can hear me because I was toggling with the microphone settings a few minutes ago, wanting to make sure everything was up and going. Looks like the mic is on, so if y'all can't hear me, just let me know in the comments. But just like y'all let me know when the music was way too loud. Oh my god. 10 minutes in, it was like just drowned out by background music. But welcome in. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. It is me, Chavez. I'm back with another NBA player prop live stream for you all today. We only got 2 games in the NBA to talk about. I'm sure we'll be able to fill up the time. Regardless of how many games we have on a slate, I'm sure we'll always have enough content, enough stats and things like that to dig into. So welcome in. If it's your first time here, I appreciate you being here. As I always say, hit that like button on your way in. If you don't like what you see, like what you hear, hit it twice on the way out. But we got some player props to get into today. I do have a couple that I want to share with you. I've already put these into a 2-pick. And I have a few other plays that I want to share with you also on the board. Should be a lot of popular plays on Prizepicks because there's only 2 games. So I feel like a lot of player prop enthusiasts will be on the same names, the same player props. There's only so much to choose from. So unless Prizepicks starts opening up alternate props like I don't know who's going to have like the highest socks today or who's going to have the most colorful shoes on the court today. We're all going to be playing pretty much the same player props. So, yeah, I noticed that when I start the stream, the little dancing lamb, I now know people don't know what to think about that when they join it and then they see this little lamb dancing around. And then a lot of people jump off. So that thing is there just to like, buffer it a little bit because I understand people aren't coming in right at 8:35, so that's just to buy a little extra time. Plus it's kind of a cool little graphic there. But I got Giannis on the thumbnail for a reason. I want to talk about a couple of his props, and there are quite a few props to like on the board today, so I don't want to waste too much time. We did talk about some player props in yesterday's video that I liked. I didn't really make them official plays, but just a couple of player props that were standing out to me. We talked about Sengun over his blocks and steals. He did finish with 3. I also talked about his rebounds and assists, which he did not go over that. I believe he needed 14 or 15 to go over that one. I don't think he finished with 15. So that was another one that I liked for him because the matchup was a good one versus the Nets. Yeah, he only finished with 12 rebounds and assists. We also talked a little bit about Kyle Kuzma on his under for his rebounds and assists. I said that's a little scary because Kuzma can kind of put together a pretty complete stat line, but yesterday he only finished with 5 rebounds and assists. So a lot of the Wizards didn't hit their over. So like you got guys like Kyle Kuzma who fell well under his points prop, his PRA prop, his fantasy line. Daniel Gafford is usually somebody you can rely on for blocks and steals. He went under that. Denny Avia played the under on his rebounds. That was one of the props that we looked at over on OddShopper. 6.5. He finished with 6. Speaking of OddShopper, speaking of a prop that we looked at together was Jared Allen rebounds. This guy goes out and gets 19 rebounds. Now, not every play that you find on OddShopper or any optimizer or any sort of tool like that is going to be 100% all the time, right? But that was one that the numbers were really liking. He finishes with 19. However, did play the under on his points at 19.5, and he did finish with 17. So you can't win them all. If there's ever a play that you are just not feeling, regardless of what the numbers are saying, regardless of what an expert is saying, stay away from it or play the opposite. At the end of the day, you are responsible for your slips, and you need to put the best slips in there that you think are going to hit for you. So if there's ever a slip or ever a play that I talk about that you're just like, that's fucking stupid, don't play it for sure. Because there have been some times where I've listened to people and I'm like, this person is high off their ass. And I just went with, what I felt was the best play. So Jared Allen was a great example of that. He went well over his rebound prop. But leave me a comment, put a comment in the chat. Let me know what play worked for you yesterday. If there was a play that you were on, from the jump and it worked out for you. If there was a play that kind of came to you throughout the day, middle of the day, and you played it and it worked out, or if there was a play that completely busted for you, leave me a comment. Let me know. Demetrius, what's going on? The Lamb Gang. I don't know if that's trademark. The Lamb Crew, the Lamb Boys. I don't know. We'll figure out a name. Who do we have in here? All right, ATM, what's going on? Darrell, what's going on, my dude? Adam, we got Demetrius, True, what's going on? Everybody, welcome in. Glad to have you here. Glad to be here. So, like I mentioned, we do have a few player props to talk about. If you're just coming in, hit that like button. But also, we were just going over yesterday's, ups and downs, or just a few plays that we talked about on the live stream. I do have a couple of official plays today. Yesterday, I just, like I said, mentioned a couple of plays that I liked. Today, we're going to dig into a couple of plays that I like that I've already put into a power play. So I don't want to waste too much time. We got 15 people watching. I don't know how long of a live stream this is going to be. Like I mentioned, only 2 games on the NBA slate. It'll be as long as it is, right? So, all right, let's get into this. So, first play I want to talk about is a Jonathan Kuminga points prop. Now, I think Prizepicks got a little too smart and did not put his rebound prop up. 4.5 rebounds. I think that's the line on other books. Now, his rebound prop is one that we can actually play on other sites. However, on Prizepicks, it's not available to us. Jonathan Kuminga, we talked a little bit about why we liked his rebounds the last time we played this dude. A lot of the same reasons apply, but we'll look into this together on props.cash for sure. But I'm looking at his points today versus the Nuggies. And I'm looking at Giannis today. Obviously, he's a thumbnail for a reason now. In full transparency, I had to do a sharp turn on this one because I was looking at his rebounds initially at 12.5. Little iffy on his rebounds, but the line was still pretty good. It got bumped up to 13. I didn't like it, to be honest with you. So just digging into what was available to us on the board, came across his points and assists, and I do like the under on this one. We're going to talk about this one over on props.cash. We'll dig into it together. Those are the 2 plays I put into a 2-pick power. And then over on Prizepicks, I do have a few plays on the board already that I think will be a good place to kind of kick things off. Looking at Curry's PRA, Wembanyama's rebounds, which is a very popular play. Chris Paul, 3-pointers made, and then Giannis 3-pointers made. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Jim. Someone put in the chat yesterday, fade Bam. Well, not necessarily those words, but something like 10,000 people were on top of that Bam rebounding prop. And we talked about how there might be some value in him fading the public. And what did Bam finish with? Like 5 rebounds or something like that? Anybody hoping for like a really awesome game between the Heat and the Lakers was really disappointed. So Bam had 7 rebounds on a 10.5 or 11 rebound line. So it didn't even come close. Fading the public, there is value in that. I totally agree with that. That's kind of how I look at these popular plays. I don't really look at what like, oh, everybody's playing this person, so I have to play him too. It's not DFS where like sometimes you get a player. I don't know if you guys play DraftKings, FanDuel, things like that. But sometimes when you play on DFS, there's a very, very popular player. Everybody's going to play him. You almost have to play that person to block it all out. Because if you don't play that person and that player goes off, your lineups are sunk. So you almost have to play him just to like keep trend and, make sure that you don't get like sabotaged. This is not the same situation. In the player prop industry, you don't have to pick what everybody else is picking. There is no like, if they get it right and I don't, like, there are so many player props to choose from, right? And so if you play the under on something that everybody's playing the over on and they're all right and you're wrong, that's okay. You know, you going with the public doesn't always mean like you're going to win. So there's no defensive strategy in that, you know? So I know Bam was a super popular play yesterday. He didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, he had a stat line of 15, 7, and 5, picked up 4 personal fouls. He did have 3 steals and 2 turnovers. Didn't even get you 40 fantasy points yesterday. LeBron James had 12 points. Bronny had 10, I think. Bronny had, I think I played his points on Prizepicks at 6. I put that in a 2-pick power with Killian Hayes assist. And Bronny, I think, finished with 10. So he almost finished with more points than Papa. I don't know what was going on yesterday with LeBron or just the Lakers in general. They look super sluggish. Maybe they're still having that championship hangover. You know? That's what happens when you win titles. That's what happens when you win in-season titles. All right, so here are a few plays that I think we can start with. And then, as always, we'll open it up to everybody in terms of what you want to dig into, player props. I want to start with the 2 plays that I put into a 2-pick this morning with Kuminga and Giannis. So we are just going to get right into it. As always, if you're going to put a question in the chat, player name, player prop, and then if you like the over or under, that way we can kind of make a case for it. But if you just want to dig into the number itself, you don't really have if you don't really have an over or under take, that's cool too. But if you want me to like make a case for the over or under, definitely put that in your question. That way we can like look at the information in a different way. All right, so we're just gonna get right into it. Do want to share a couple of things before we get started, kind of like paying the bills. So if you watched the live stream yesterday, then you know that a couple new sponsors on the channel. Something that I was looking at late last night, and then again it was early this morning, where I got a decision to make at night. When I'm looking at these player props, do I want to like cut a quick video and jump on that value, or do I want to wait until the morning and see how the numbers are? Because sometimes you can jump on a play very early and there's just not enough information out there. So I've been waiting last couple of days and waiting in the morning and seeing like how it looks. And this one was still on the board. We're getting it at 13.5 over on Prizepicks. It's set to 14.5 on FanDuel. So other books do have this at a slightly higher line. The matchup against Denver is not ideal. However, We are working with a lower line. We are working with some solid projections here that are projecting Kuminga for 14.6 points, which is roughly 15. Even if he doesn't get you 15 and gets you 14, it's still over. Back-to-back games of 16 plus points versus Dallas and Orlando. Orlando's a tough matchup, okay? Orlando has a stingier defense than Denver does. So that should give you a little confidence if you're looking at playing the over. Also, this game is at home. So just a nice home cooking for the Warriors against a really good, strong team in the Nuggets. So Kuminga's points are standing out to me. Like the projections, the odds are not going to be accurate because when we drop this line, it doesn't really move a whole lot in this 10-game log. But I don't think if you had a choice to play a line at 1 point less than what the other books are showing it at, you'd probably play it, right? So even though it doesn't move the needle on a lot of his games, when we drop this down to 13.5, it's still a value for us to consider. But Jonathan Kuminga's points, play number one, that's what I was looking at for sure. Loving his rebounds props. I don't know if you can find his rebounds at 4.5 anywhere else, but this is almost minus 140 on the over. So if you're able to get this anywhere, I say take the over on this one for sure. Second play, Giannis. Now, I was looking at his rebounds initially because these were set to 12.5, and they are set to 13.5 on other books. So even though Prizepicks bumped it up to 13, you're still getting it at a lower line. Now, this should tell you that this line throughout the day will probably get bumped up on Prizepicks to match what other books are showing at 13.5. So if you're iffy on it at 13, stay away from it or play the under, because it's not going to get any lower. So if you want to play the under and you want to wait for it to get bumped up to 13.5, that's another strategy you can put in play. But at 13, he needs 14 to go over. He needs 13 to push. In his last few matchups with the Spurs, he did put up 14 against them on December 19th. But this game here was from last season, not last calendar year, last season. And he put up 14. Over his last 10, you can see that he has hit this in 4 out of 10 games, and then over his last 5, he's hit this in 2 out of his last 5. So the rebounds I was looking at, but now that they're bumped up to 13, I mean, maybe you see enough on the screen that you're like, hey, that's still a good play. I'm going to play the over on it. God bless. But the one I want to look at is points and assists, because that one getting the most juice towards the under over any of his that and his 3-pointers made. If you want to play his 3-pointers made also, we'll look at that real quick. But looking at his last 5 games, Giannis has yet to go over this in 5 straight games. And then in terms of his last 10 games, this looks a little scary because we always talk about regression or positive regression to the average and all this stuff. But I mean, he's obviously being impacted by Dame's presence. That team is a little different with Dame in the lineup. Dame soaks up a little bit more usage. Giannis is not needed as much this season from what I'm looking at to take over, dominate games. And so he's still putting up crazy good stat lines, right? I mean, he's not putting up Luka type stat lines. But I mean, look at these PRAs, 53, 51. He's got a lot of 50s in here. 50 PRA is a lot of production. So it's not like he's having bad games. It's not like we're saying he's having a bad season. We're just simply looking at playing the under on one of his props because it's appealing. Looking at his projections, you can see that he is projected for 38. We can round it up to 39 PRA. I guess the question you should ask yourself is, against the Spurs, I mean, we've seen the Spurs keep it competitive against teams. The Phoenix, 2 back-to-back games against Phoenix comes to mind where they were down by 20 plus and they made a nice little run and they won. I mean, is Milwaukee that kind of team to squander a 20-point lead? Is Giannis the kind of player to allow that to happen? Will he be needed to keep his foot on the gas for 36 minutes this game? Probably not. So that's why this is standing out to me. You are seeing it at a lower line on Prizepicks, which I would love to play this at 42.5 on Prizepicks, but we're getting it at 41, which I think is still a strong number to take the under on. But this is what we're looking at here for Giannis. These are the two plays that I like that I already put into a power play. Giannis under PA and then Kuminga over his point. So that's what I wanted to kick things off with. Those are plays that I was looking at, and those are the plays I'll be hanging my hat on today. So let's pop back into the chat. Let's see what we got going on here. Welcome in, everybody. Got a few more eyes on the stream. 30 viewers. Welcome in. If you're just joining, hit that like button on your way in. If you don't like what you hear, like what you see, hit it twice on the way out. I'm just going to scroll. The usual suspect. Yeah. Andy, what's going on, man? He said, awful night for me yesterday. Lopez over on points and assists was one where I follow my gut along with data and it hit. Nice. That always feels good. Yeah, it always feels good when like you just have a feeling about something and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna roll with it. And it feels great when the data is on point. When the data is not on point, it just makes it a little iffy, right? Next time you a little bit more hesitant to pull the trigger on something because it didn't work out last time. You gotta have a short memory too in player props. It's hard though. I try to practice what I preach, but I'm not the best at it. My memory lingers, you know. I think about things that happened 2 days, 3 days ago, and I'm like, fuck that. I'm not playing that guy again, you know. I was this close to going back to Lou Dort yesterday on his 3-pointers made because I took the play, you know, I wrote it up and I was like, this son of a bitch is gonna go over 3-pointers today. I just know it. And you know, sometimes we play a player and they burn us and then we never go back to them. But Lou Dort went over 3-pointers yesterday. So 1.5. I was that close. And I didn't play it because that was more of a gut thing than it was anything else. But you go to a player that don't hit for you, consider going right back to him the next game. We always talk about how we can't get a player right, or hey, you know, when I pick them, they go under, or some stuff like that. Very rarely do I go right back to that player. So I'm gonna have to consider that as part of a strategy, like building a strategy around that. Because you know, I was just keeping my eye on that Lou Dort prop, and I'm like, should I do it? I don't know. Herb Jones played the over on Herb Jones points, right? 8. He needed 9 points. He didn't come close. He's reeled off like 3 straight games of like 10 plus points. That's another example of like, hey, let's go back to that player. We just got him on a bad night. You know, players can't be bad forever unless you're Jordan Poole. So let's see here. Played Halliburton. Adam said, what's going on, Adam? Said, I played Halliburton under on 3.5 made threes. He hit 4. Oh, shit, dude. Yeah. We talked about that yesterday in terms of like him being a volume shooter. Like, is he a good 3-point shooter or does he just take a lot of threes and he makes them, you know, the more threes you would think, the more shots you take, the more shots you make, because long term, it's just going to like average out like that. Sometimes players can be mistaken as like when Trae Young came into the league, people thought he was just like the best 3-point shooter. Like, oh, he's just like, but he shot like 23s a game and he was making like 5. He's gotten a lot better since that. But that's an example of a player who's a high volume shooter. And by default, they're just going to make more. It's not like they're accurate and they're like going 5 for 6 from behind 3, you know? I mean, not everyone's Curry. Even Curry has his bad games. All right, let's get into some props. Let's see what y'all got going on. We got Darrell, Chris Paul, PRA, under 21.5. All right, I was looking at his a few of his props too for the under. Wemby, we got Wemby over PA. All right, just burped. What's going on? Enrique, Damian, Hallie hit 5 threes. That guy had a huge game yesterday, man. Like 70 fantasy points or something like that. Am I at 60? 63.5. 63.5 fantasy points. All right. Trace Jackson over PR. All right. Let's do this. We got enough to go over. All right. So we only got 2 games on the slate. So I think we have the room, we have the time to like dig into multiple player props for players. So like Jarrell wanted to talk about Chris Paul. We can just go through let's go through all the stats, right? Like all the props. So Chris Paul, we'll go from points to steals and blocks. Now I'm not saying all of these are on Prizepicks. We're just gonna dig into the info. So Prizepicks are Chris Paul, 10.5 points minus 120 on the under. So we're getting pretty good odds in favor of the under. He is starting. So there is a stat out there where when he starts, he scores double-digit points in X amount of games. But he's got a tough matchup in front of him with the Nuggets, who are tall, big. They're all like everybody's 6'10", and that 6'10" or over in that starting. It feels like what is Murray, 6'4", 6'5"? But like MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, KCP, like wingspan, they're like pterodactyls out there. It's a tough matchup. So points maybe not for Chris Paul. Rebounds, I don't think that one's going to be on Prizepicks, but if it is, you're getting really, really strong odds to the under for his rebounds. We've seen a really, really sharp decline in his assists. Now that's due to a lot of his role changing, whether he's coming off the bench and starting. We can also see his minutes have dropped pretty drastically from that last game against Boston, where he played 35 minutes and followed it up with 4 straight games of sub 30. And then he finally got back over that 30-minute line against Dallas and Orlando. But his assists have really taken a hit. Taking a look at his PRA at 21.5. Now, this one is kind of a coin flip in terms of odds, but man, the game logs indicate this is in favor of the under. If you're looking at it the way I'm looking at it, 2 out of his last 10, 1 out of his last 5, 19.28 projection for his PRA. So not very strong projections here for Chris Paul. Take a look at his PA at 18.5. That's also very similar to his PRA. 2 out of his last 10, 1 out of his last 5, projected for 16.08 points and assists. And then we look at his points and rebounds, same thing. So a lot of the time, if you see a PRA that's going over, more than likely the PA to PR will also be over, and vice versa. Take a look at his rebounds and assists. Heavy juice to the under. So this is tied directly to those assist numbers. So his assist numbers are down. His RA numbers will be down because he's not the kind of guard, at least now in this point in his career, to make up for those lack of assists with a huge rebounding night. So if his assists are down, more than likely his RA is going to be down as well. So this is almost identical to what we're seeing with his assists. Now, I did have his 3-pointers up on the Prizepicks dash. That was a prop that I wanted to take a look at, because we are getting strong numbers toward the over. He's gone over this in 3 out of his last 5 games, 4 out of his last 10, 3, 6, and 3. So looking at his projections, also, he is projected for 2 3-pointers made, which gets him over today's line. So one thing I'm learning also is if you like the under or over on a player, like for one specific prop, like let's say you like the over on their points, but it's also possible to like the under on their PRA or their under on their fantasy points. Like if you have a player who turns the ball over a lot, you like them over on their points, but maybe not their fantasy points because turnovers count against you. It is possible to like an under and an over for the same player when you're looking at their lines, like the over on 3-pointers made for Chris Paul, but like the under on his PRA. Like Chris Paul, just because he goes over 3-pointers made doesn't mean he goes over PRA. It doesn't mean he goes out there and scores 40 points. It means he hits 2 threes, which is 6 points. He could very well finish with 12 points. 11 points. So, keep those things in mind. It is very easy to like both unders and overs for a player. But Chris Paul, PRA under looks very strong, as do the PA, PR, and RA for Chris Paul. Since we're in the Golden State game, let's look at Trace Jackson Davis, who has been playing a lot more minutes, being kind of thrusted into a starter type of role as a rookie, which is pretty cool for him. Obviously, the absence of Draymond Green is like a big part of that. But back-to-back games, or excuse me, 3 consecutive games of 24 minutes or more. And then over his last 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of 24 plus minutes. Starting with his points here at 10.5, you are getting slight juice to the over. So this is nothing too crazy here. Looking at his projections, he's projected for 9 points. So not the best numbers there. Kind of a coin flip with his rebounds as well, as he's projected for right under 5.5. But he's gone over this line in 5 out of his last 10. Denver's slightly above, slightly better than the league average in rebounds allowed per game. Assist, I don't think we're looking at his assists today. I don't know if that's going to be a line or not, but he's gone over this in 5 out of his last 10 and 3 out of his last 5. PRA. So PRA is where it gets a little interesting for him, because he is producing during the time he's on the floor. He's very active on both ends of the floor. So 3, 4, 5, 6 games with the over this. I mean, not even just over. Like, he's averaging 20 plus PRA in those games. Now, when he goes under, he falls flat. So there's really no middle ground. There is no like, oh shit, he almost did it. Like, no, he either goes way over or he doesn't come close. So PA looks a little better than just his points, but 5 games over, 5 games under. PR, slight juice to the under here. Now this is at 16.5. If you're getting at 16.5 on Prizepicks, then it's identical. We don't have to make any line adjustments. But 3, 4, 5, 6 games with the over here, 4 with the under. And then you can see his hit rates down here, 60 and 60 over his last 5 games. RA, that's a very low RA. I don't even know if his RA is up. Victor Wembanyama's rebounds just got bumped up from 8.5 to 9. So if you were looking at that, then it's moved. If you already played it at 8, then that was one of the most popular plays on the board. So not surprising to see it get bumped up. Everybody's hammering the over on it. So I'm just over here on, so this is available to you over on a Prizepicks. This Trace Jackson Davis, 7.5 rebounds and assists. If you want to look at that one also looks pretty solid. I'm curious. I mean, this is a line that he could probably get with rebounds alone in most games. Again, this matchup with Denver is tough, but rebounds and assists look pretty good for him. So 3-pointers made, I don't believe that's going to be a prop we want to look at. And then steals and blocks, 1.5. I don't think that's up on the board at those lines. Turnovers. So there's Trace Jackson Davis. Went through most of his lines, at least what was available to us on Prizepicks. So yeah, we got Chris Paul out of the way. We talked about Trace Jackson Davis. And who else was there in the chat? Oh, what's up, the Tricky? You got the $1 million belt? Yeah. That thing was not cheap, and it's fake as hell. Like, it's heavy, but it's obviously not real gold or diamonds. Like, when you open the box, you open up the bag, it's obviously like costume jewelry, but it's heavy as hell, man. It's heavy, but it's like when you get up close to it, it's you're like, you're not fooled. You're definitely not fooled. But that's my favorite belt. That belt and the spinner belt, John Cena's spinner belt. That was around the time where like Latrell Sprewell had the spinner rims and like everybody was putting that shit on their car. Like that was like the best thing ever. And then WWE was just so smart to play off that with the spinner belt for John Cena. That's my second favorite belt. My third favorite belt is like the classic WCW belt, the big ass belt. Like when Ric Flair would wear it, it'd like take up his whole torso, be like right there on his neck. That's my third favorite belt. But those are super expensive, man. Those real replicas are like $400. They're really expensive. But that $1 million belt, that's like one of my favorite belts, man. Let's see. Michael Porter tonight. Tricky, what are you liking about Porter tonight? Threes, PRA. We can take a look at all of it. Let's see. PRA on Sohan. Adam, we'll take a look at Sohan. We'll take a look at Michael Porter. What else? Can I know this application, please? Can you? I'm not sure what you mean. Application. Help me out with that one. I'm not sure. Let me know what you're asking, and I'll answer it. All right. Alex says, "What's going on, Alex? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Safe to say, Bucks better hope Pacers not in the way of their playoff hopes." Yeah, man. So the Pacers had like a nice little hangover as well, right? I mean, right after, or was it, I think it was just Halliburton who was having some really bad games after the in-season championship. But they've kind of picked it back up a little bit. And now it's the Lakers. Now it's LeBron. I don't know. Like, we're seeing some really bad games from these teams, but Pacers back on track. Yeah, Pacers are legit. I think that was like the best thing to ever happen to Halliburton, I guess, in his professional career. Getting traded from Sacramento to, I love California. I love Northern California. In or around the Sacramento areas, there's a lot of cool shit up there. But we're talking about like winning a title, and he wasn't going to get that run in Sacramento, not behind De'Aaron Fox. I mean, you're almost hoping for an injury. You're almost hoping for like some sort of like weird thing to happen for Halliburton to kind of get that run. I mean, that's like the best thing to happen to him. And this is his team too. This is his team. He's not sharing it. It's not Buddy Hield's team. It's not Miles Turner's team. This is his team. So he wasn't getting that in Sacramento. Yeah. If they build correctly through the next few drafts and just like are smart with their free agents, like that's going to be a team to contend like for years, as long as Halliburton's healthy. I mean, the Pacers haven't seen a good run like this since they had PG. Since they had PG on that team, and that team was strong when they were all healthy. But it's been a few years. All right, let's look at Sohan. Was it PRA? And Michael Porter Jr. Tricky one is to look at Michael Porter Jr. We'll look at all that stuff. So let's start with points. Let's just go down the line here. So Sohan is getting you, at least on props.cash, he's getting you 11.5 point line. Pretty even odds here. Nothing standing out. Slight over on the projection. Obviously, a player can't score 11.5 points. So this is closer to 12 than it is to 11. When we look at his rebounds. One thing to note, Malachi Branham is not in tonight. I believe he's out. So we got Malachi is day-to-day. Zach Collins is out. And then Bassey's out for the season. So one less able body for the Spurs. Sohan minus 128 on his rebounds. This is like the perfect staircase, right? So at some point, this has to revert to like it just like flips around. Is this the game where he kind of gets it going with his rebounds? I mean, one game this season against the Bucks, he had 11 boards. So that's promising. 2 games last season against the Bucks, he went over this line as well. Assists for Jeremy Sohan. Now, I don't know if he's still running point for the Spurs. I know he was starting at the point, which is terrible for Wemby. If Trey Jones is starting tonight at the point, I feel like the team should flow, like everything should run better with that lineup. But I would be interested in Sohan's assist if there's a way to find out if he was just going to be getting more minutes running point. But his numbers are strong in terms of the over here. He's gone over this in 3 out of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 out of his last 5 and 5 out of his last 10. PRA. So 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Sohan. Gone over this in 4 out of 10 games. Gone over this in 2 out of 5 games. Projected for 19.08. Want to take a look at the head-to-head matchups here. So we talk about this, how players elevate their game or don't elevate their game versus certain teams, how the odds can say one thing, how the projections can say one thing, but a player's historical performance can say something different. This is an example of that, where Sohan has really played the Bucks well in his short career. In 3 games, he's gone over this PRA line twice. In his last game, he almost got you 30 PRA, and I'm pretty sure his line wasn't 21.5. So it was probably something like, maybe it was 19.5. He goes over by almost 10 more than what he needed. So despite the odds just kind of being like meh, historical performance looks really good against this team, and the Spurs are at home in front of all them big old women. I love that Charles Barkley clip. I think there's a compilation of him just like shitting all over San Antonio women. I mean, he even threw the churro reference in there. That one was funny. Kenny was playing them in that episode. But I love his insights on San Antonio women. So Jeremy Sohan, 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think we got a lot of information here to make a case for both. So we can look at the odds and say, nah, I don't like that one. 3 games straight of going under, not the best line, not the best projections. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to toss all that out the window and look at what he's done against this team this season and in his career. He's played them very well. Matchup be damned. Doesn't really matter to him. Wemby or no Wemby, right? This is this season. This is last season. So you got a lot to look at there for him. And keep in mind, the Bucks tightening things up over the last handful of games, but they just gave up 142 points to the Pacers. So there's still some things to work out on the defensive end. So points are a big part of the PRA. So that's Jeremy Sohan through points through 3-pointers made. I don't think you're going to find that one on Prizepicks. Turnovers, if you can find that one on Prizepicks, that one might be interesting to look at. And I don't know about steals and blocks. It's probably not going to be available to you on Prizepicks. Since we're in this game, take a look at Giannis's 3-pointers made. Now, this one I was looking at. This one is a popular play on Prizepicks. Like if we go to popular play, so it is right here. 7.3 thousand people are playing this, but it doesn't tell you if they're playing over or under. So I would assume that people are playing the over on this because they see the 0.5 and it's so tempting. And you think he has to be able to make one 3-pointer, and his 3-pointers are not terrible this season. I mean, they're not great. I mean, on the season, if I can pull up, there he goes. This looks like Guitar Hero. Like, I don't know. They're not great, but he's not a 3-point shooter. So you can look at this like, oh, this is a trap. I'm gonna bait you into taking the over on this one, or you can just play the odds and say this is an easy under because he's gone over this line in just 30% of his games. 10 out of 33 games this season. Head to head against the Spurs, he made one last season. The game against them on December 19th, he didn't make any threes. Did he take threes? Yeah, he took 2 3-pointers and missed both of them. So, me personally, I don't know. I was looking at it. I was considering it. I didn't want to look at it with you all because, I mean, there's a case to be made for both sides. But, man, the first time I saw him make a 3, I almost screamed. I was like, he made one. I was like, holy shit. Like, he can make them. Holy crap. If he ever got his 3-pointer down, like if he ever I don't know what his 3-point percentage on the year is, but what if he became you could be looking at similar shootings like Jaren Jackson Jr. or Miles Turner, just like a big, lanky, rangy, 5 hitting threes, which is scary to think. Like, if this guy starts knocking down his threes, how do you defend him? You foul him and put his ass on the free throw line because he's like a 30% free throw shooter. But outside of that, I mean, but anyway, 3-pointers made for Giannis. If you wanted to look at that, I did want to talk briefly about that line because it is a pretty popular play amongst the masses. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. I'm going to pop back into the chat. Porter Jr., that's right. Damn. Porter Jr. All right. Michael Porter Jr. Take a look at that one. So let's start with his points. So with Michael Porter Jr., first of all, his games against the Warriors have been great. I mean, he's 5 for 5 over his last 5 games. He's gone over this in back-to-back meetings with the Warriors this season. Not getting the best odds. They're not bad. They're not great. They're just kind of right there in the middle in terms of his points. In these games, however, because I was just about to say, his points are kind of tied to his 3-pointers made. Like, if his threes are falling, then I can't see him going under points. But let's look at what he did in those games. So 50%. I don't know what's 5 divided into 9. 55%. 55%. Nailed it. 50% here. 3 divided into 8 is what? 42%, something like that. And then 30% here. So, it gives you the average right here. I'm doing all this damn math. I could just scroll down and be like, oh, here's his percentage for the fucking game. All right. So, threes look good. Points look good. So, you think he has a good game from behind 3, from behind the 3-point line, then this looks strong. Let's look at his rebounds. His rebounds were a cheat code last season. Last 3 games versus the Warriors, he's averaging double-digit rebounds in those 3 games. Over those 5 games, he's averaging 7.2. what he's done over his last 10 games. He's only hit this in 3. Want to take a look at his assists? I never look at his assists. I don't skip through that one. All right, so PRA. That's one that we can look at because there's a lot going on in this one. Big part of this are going to be points, but his rebounding numbers have been down over his last 10 games. But against the Warriors, it doesn't really matter because he's getting it done. 3 straight games of 27 plus PRA, back-to-back games this season going over this line. So big part of his PRA is going to be points. So again, it's all like down to threes. If he's hitting his threes, he's more than likely scoring his points. If he's scoring his points, he's more than likely going to go over PRA because he's not going out there grabbing you 10 plus rebounds. However, I just remember this. Bigs, front courts against the Warriors is a thing. And it's something I told myself I would pay more attention to. So even though his rebound numbers have been down over his last 10, he is rebounding very well against the Warriors. And they are allowing, like, I don't care what this says. I watch the games and I see the shit, and bigs are grabbing boards. And so if Michael Porter goes out there and gets you 7 rebounds and he goes out there and scores 17 points, he's at 24 PRA and he's going to get you at least 1 assist. So I just made a case for the over on this one. Making a case for the under on his PRA, he goes out there and shoots 0 for 7 from 3, doesn't make one of them, gets in foul trouble, and doesn't see the court in the fourth quarter, which we've seen shit like that happen with him. So I think the case for the over is more likely to happen, to be honest with you. So I like the over on his PRA for sure. I think this one's in a good spot to hit. He's averaging 4 3-pointers made per game over his last 5 meetings with the Warriors, back-to-back games of 3+ threes made. That's 9 points right there. That's over 50% of his point prop. And 36% of what he would need to go over his PRA. So that's pretty good. So yeah, I like that one. MPJ. Are his fantasy score up? I'm going to head back to Prizepicks real quick. All right, so no fantasy points on the board right now. I would even look at MPJ's fantasy score because his fantasy line typically isn't that much higher than his PRA. And I don't believe that he turns the ball over a whole hell of a lot. No. So everything he does counts towards his fantasy score. It's all positive. It's all on the plus. So 16 points, 7 boards, it's 24.2. Gets you 1 assist. That's 25, basically 26 points. Goes out there and gets you 2 steals and blocks. That's 30, 31, 32 fantasy points. When his fantasy points drop, if they're in or around that 30.5 to 31.5 range, I think that's a good prop to take the over on. Because I cannot see his fantasy score being much higher than 30. If his PRA is 24, we might even get it under 30, which to me is a good line. So there's MPJ, A through Z. All right. We can take a look at Wemby's PA, ATM. Wemby's PA. What's going on, Zach? Welcome in. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It does take a lot more time to do this, though. I mean, doing live streams is easy because it's in real time. But like I completely understand why a lot of other content creators don't do live streams, because it is lengthy. It is a little lengthy, but if you got the time to do it, it's pretty fun. So let's take a look at Giannis under points. All right, I do like the under on his points and assists. If you were in here earlier, that's one of the plays that I am playing today, is under points and assists for Giannis. So we could take a look at the under on his points. Oh, got you. So this is props.cash. So props.cash is where we look into all the game logs, all the odds, all the everything. Link is in the description of all my videos. 25% off your first month using my link, using my referral code. So if you are interested in that, that's how you would sign up. But yeah, props.cash is what we use here on the channel. All right, let's see here. So we just did Sohan. All right, so Giannis. I tell you what, let's look up Giannis, and let's look up what was the other one? Giannis. That was it. I answered all of them. All right. Usually I forget one or two. All right, we'll look at Giannis, and then we'll head over to OddShopper. We'll spend a few minutes over on OddShopper, see what's popping on the Pick'ems table, expert picks, things like that. All right, so let's go back up. Let's run through all of Giannis's props. He only had 11 points against the Spurs the last time they met. Another thing about props.cash. Now, you can't do this on the desktop application. However, on the actual app itself, this is something that I noticed, that I figured out the last couple of days. This shit is so cool. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to show you on my phone. So props.cash app, right? So you got the props.cash app. If you click on any one of these like bars, which is like the prop for that game, it'll pull up the whole game. It'll pull up the whole box score, which is really cool. It's another feature of the mobile app. So like, it'll pull up that player's, like for Giannis, oh, he scored 11 points against the Spurs. If I was using that phone, the mobile app, I would click on that box. It would pull up the entire box score for the entire game for both sides, and we can just dig in. That's pretty freaking cool. So that's another feature of the mobile app that I really, really like. Comes in handy, so you don't have to pop back and forth between like ESPN.com, NBA.com, and all that shit. It's like all right there for you. All right, so look at Giannis' points. Sitting at 34.5 over on Prizepicks, so it is slightly lower than his 35.5 that we're getting over on props.cash and other books. Other books being PointsBet, BetMGM have this at 35.5, while DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars all have it at 34. All right, so typically you will see Prizepicks and FanDuel mirror the same numbers because the scoring system is identical. So the fantasy scoring system on Prizepicks is the exact same scoring system on FanDuel. Sometimes you'll see the same lines on both of those applications, whereas on like these other books, completely different. So Giannis, now there are two schools of thought. If you look at this game log, you say it's very obvious. Take the under on this one because there's so much red. He's only gone over one game. His numbers against the Spurs are not great. He scored 11 points last game. Or you can look at this and say what comes down must go up. and he's due for a monster game against this team. He's been underperforming the last handful of games, and this can't continue. So you can look at it a couple different ways. You can also take a look at his season average of 30.8 and go, holy shit, the books have this at 35.5, 34.5, 4.5 to 5.5 points over his season average. All because of the matchup, because the Spurs are not a good team. And then you say, okay, but he doesn't play the Spurs well, hasn't played them well in his last 2 games versus this team. So why are we getting such a high line on his points? Is this a good opportunity to take the under on his points? Probably. So this to me is the Dame Lillard effect. Just having another guy on your team that soaks up that much usage. I mean, it's definitely impacting his totals. So points. Go back to the last 10 points where he's averaging 27.8, and over his last 5, he's averaging 30.8. I mean, I know there's slight juice to the over on this one, but me personally, I'm just seeing way too much here to play the over on. Also, this team just gave up 142 points to the Pacers. Giannis scored 26 points in that game. Giannis also had 60.25 fantasy points in that game. This is a great example of a player not hitting point prop, but going over fantasy point prop, having a really strong game. So this is a great example of taking the under on a player, but they can still go out there and have a good game. Just because you take the under on points doesn't mean you're saying that that player is going to have a bad game. So 26, 11, and 8. He was 2 assists shy of a triple-double yesterday. He also had 4 blocks and steals with 3 turnovers. So turnovers are low, blocks and steals are high, PRA is high. 1 for 2 from 3, 50% from 3-point range. What? 50%? Wow. So there's Giannis's points. I'm not taking a stand on this one, but I am taking a stand on his points and assists. I like the under on his points and assists, but I mean, points are the majority of this prop. So if I like the under on this one, I'm probably closer to playing the under on his points than I would be over. So Giannis right there, points. Maybe if people play the under on it enough, Prizepicks will bump this up to 35. Maybe. Then at 35, you could definitely play the under on that one. So, all right. Giannis, done. All right. Let's spend a few minutes over on OddShopper. So we talked about OddShopper yesterday. First time introducing it on a live stream, talking about it on a live stream. Going to make this as informative as I can, as well as educational. Just trying to show you all how to use the pick'em table, how to read these numbers. With OddShopper, we're not looking at what we just looked at through props.cash. On props.cash, we're looking at game logs. We're looking at historical performances. We're looking at projections and things like that. But on OddShopper, we're looking at more numbers-driven data. So plus EV, expected win rate, true odds. We're not looking at game logs. We're not looking at anything like that. So I am not saying that one approach is better than the other, but it does allow you more options. The more options you have, the stronger strategy you have, I think the better your slips will be. The more you know. So let's just take a look at what's popping here on the OddShopper pick'em table, because NBA is up and going. Even though there's only 2 games to talk about today, it doesn't matter. There's props to talk about. Just for reference, Chris Dunn yesterday was the highest EV play on the board, under 5.5 assists, and he did finish with 4. He did finish with 4 assists. So playing the unders is not always fun, but like I say, they do make up 50% of your options. You go under, you go over. There's only 2 ways to go with these lines. You know, they are part of the industry. They're a big part of the industry, and there's a lot of value there. And I think a lot of money gets left on the table, you know, when we don't play the unders. I'm not saying every play has to be the under, but like if you see one that's popping, you know, pay attention to it. So, okay, Jamal Murray, 6.5 assists. Looking at the under on this one, 1% expected value, 55% hit rate, and then minus 122 true odds. Devin Vassell under his assist. Chris Paul under his rebounds. You can see all these are pretty much the same. Same win rate, same EV, and same true odds. That's kind of what you're going to see on such a small slate. You know, there are only so many player props you can have on the board, so the EV won't be as high, but these are still in play. Points for Aaron Gordon under 14.5. One thing you can do, and you know, if you are iffy on a play, if you see a play on the OddShopper pick'em table, and you're like, how did they come up with that? Like, why is this one getting so much juice to the under? Reverse engineer it. Take that prop, look at it on props.cash, and figure out, okay, this is why the books like the under on this one, or this is why it's getting such like heavy juice to the under. Figure that out. I mean, you can do that and use all these resources to your, you know, that you have. You use them like that and kind of figure it out. But you only got 4 teams today, so you're gonna run out of like high value odds or high value player props. But the first few that are popping, you got Murray under his assist, you got Vassell under his assist, rebounds under for Chris Paul, Aaron Gordon under points, Nikola Jokic under his 22.5 rebounds and assists. Maybe that's one where you're like, what, under on this guy? That's crazy. Well, take a look at it on props.cash. See why it's getting, you know, these numbers. There's Trace Jackson Davis here. It's at 17.5. I thought we saw it at 16.5 on Prizepicks. Maybe this got bumped down. Klay Thompson. We talk about taking Klay unders. There's one for you right there. 17.5 under points and assists. Giannis under threes. Giannis under 2.5 blocks and steals. There you go. All right. So that's the pick'em table. Take a look at the expert picks. Now, the expert picks, this is not Prizepicks driven. Do we even have expert picks? Yeah, all right. So this is sportsbook driven. However, I mentioned this yesterday. If you see a pick given by one of these experts on stochastic.com, you have the sportsbook that they're finding it on, but you may still be able to find that line on an actual pick'em site like Prizepicks. Obviously, your point spreads you're not going to be able to find on Prizepicks Underdog. However, the Stephon Diggs total receiving yards for this game against Miami on Sunday, big game, big game for them. FanDuel has this at 59.5. We talked about how FanDuel and Prizepicks have similar lines. They use the same scoring system for fantasy points, so it's possible you can find this line over on Prizepicks at 59.5. And if you do find it at 59.5, you have a little confidence here that, you know, people are liking the over on this one. Trace Jackson Davis looking at the under on his 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now we talked about it at 16.5, but at 17.5, it's a different story, right? So Stephon Diggs over on Prizepicks is set to 60.5. So unless you think that Stephon Diggs gets you 60 yards exactly, this one still might be in play for the over at 60.5 over on Prizepicks. Trace Jackson Davis, 17.5. So again, pretty short slate in terms of NBA games right now, so you're not going to see as many expert picks on the board as you normally would. Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis is at 17.5. So we're looking at it at 16.5 over on props.cash. Jokic over rebounds. Now, this is a funny one because we just looked at his rebounds and assists at 22, and the juice is on the under, but his rebounds at 12.5 is in play over on Bet365. But his rebounds on Prizepicks is at 13. So it has, again, been bumped up. His assists have been bumped up to 9 as well. So just another feature, pick'em table. You got expert picks. You got expert articles as well. Expert articles, real quick, they're not going to give you like only player prop. They'll give you different types of articles to read, and not just for Prizepicks. So you play on sleeper, you play on better, you play on underdog. There's a lot of content here to look at. So just want to share that all with you. But OddShopper.com, new partner of the channel. Very excited to be working with them and using these tools on a daily basis. I'll be building out a slip and putting that in my channel. I did build out a slip yesterday, put that over in my Discord channel using plays taken from the OddShopper pick'em table, as well as some plays just that I personally researched on props.cash. I'll do the same today. Although we are kind of limited with our plays, still worth creating a slip. So I'm excited to use these tools for tomorrow for our protected play. And we got college football this weekend. We got playoff atmosphere type of NFL, football to talk about as well. Like, the Texans are basically knocking on the door, making the playoffs. Being from Houston, that makes me smile. Doormat last season, going from doormat of the AFC South to possible wild card. I mean, crazy. So a lot of sports this weekend, and a lot of different ways we can build slips out using the OddShopper tools. But I think we might be good. I think we looked at all the player props, unless somebody put something in here. Darrell says Porter assist 1.5. Porter ass 1.5. I'm gonna read it the way you wrote it. All right, let's take a look at Michael Porter assist. That's Aaron Gordon. There you go. I don't see Michael Porter on Prizepicks for his assist. If you were finding this in another play, like another site, for sure. But 1.5 assists for Porter, minus 210 on the under. So the books don't really see him getting more than one, although he is capable of getting 2+ head-to-head matchup with the Warriors. He's averaging exactly 1. So yeah, on Prizepicks, I'm not seeing. These are the assist props over on Prizepicks. And we'll pull up Porter. So his block shots at 0.5. His points and assists might be something to look at also. If you like the points prop for him, these two are so close that it's possible he gets the over on this line with points alone. But like, if you play this at 17.5, and let's say he got you 17 points and an assist, that's 18. Well, if he gets you 17 points, he definitely goes over his points prop. So these two are pretty well correlated. I don't see a problem in taking either one of these. Maybe even favoring the over on his points and assists, just because it does give you that wiggle room, and we know his upside with points alone. So if he doesn't get this with just flat out points, he's good for 1 assist. Gets you 17 points and an assist. That kind of thing. Especially if he's knocking shots down. If he's knocking down shots and he's knocking his threes down, I mean, we could be looking at, 20 plus points for MPJ for sure. All right. What else? Wemby PA. Yeah, we could take a look at Wemby's PA ATM. Let's take a look at that. All right. Has he not played the Bucks this season? So he personally has no games against the Bucks. So he sat out that game. What a fun game, honestly. If you're in San Antonio, what a fun game to watch. Like Giannis and Wemby. That's a pretty cool game. I mean, just on like name recognition alone, that's a pretty cool environment right there. All right, so Wemby points and assists set at 22.5. I wanted to double check Prizepicks to make sure that that it's the same. And once again, I put Wemby in the search box on Prizepicks, and doesn't know what I'm talking about. 21.5 PA. So we are getting at a lower line. When we adjust this line, it will not do a whole lot to his game logs. However, it will have some impact on the odds themselves. So then we could be looking at possible like slight favor to the over on this one. Gone over this in 4 out of his last 10, 2 out of his last 5. Like I mentioned, no games versus the Bucks for him this season. Projections for Wemby look like that, 21.77. So this is slightly over the 21.5, closer to 22 than it is the 21. I also like his PRA. I think it was at 30.5. It got bumped up to 31.5. Was it always 31.5? Hold on. No, it was at 30.5. Prizepicks bumped that shit up to 31.5. So at 31.5, you're getting slight juice to the over here. However, I'm bringing up the points, rebounds, and assists because we're talking about his PA. So the difference between that 21.5, 31 is a 10-point difference between the two. I'm just looking at like, would it be more ideal to take the over on his PRA at 31.5, or do you want to stick with the points and assists for him because you are getting it at a significantly lower line? And he can dish out a few assists here and there, right? So over his last 10 games, he's averaging 4 assists. Over his last 5, identical numbers there. His points are set to 18.5 on Prizepicks. So if Wemby gets you 19 points, and then Wemby goes out there and gets you 4 assists, well, that's 23 PA. If he goes out there and gets you 3 assists, that's 22 PA on a 21.5 line. So this is all dependent on his points, like, because he's not going to go out there and like dish out 10 assists. Has he even? What's the highest assist? This one right here. How many is that? How many is this one's? 7. So 7 is the highest number of assists he's had this season. So on his best night, he goes out there and gets you 7 assists. Well, shit, at 7 assists, he can afford to have a slightly low scoring night and give you like 15, 16 points. But you would feel a lot better about this if Wemby goes out there and gets you 18, 19 points. So I don't dislike his PA at all, especially with the lower line. So I think that's a pretty strong one. 21.5 points and assists for Victor Wembanyama. All right. I think that's going to do it. I'm going to end it on Wemby. I think we're going to end it on Wemby here. We went over a lot of player props. Doesn't matter if there's only 2 games on the slate. We will fill up an hour real fast. Yeah. A lot of fun today. Appreciate y'all stopping by, checking this channel out. Like I mentioned, hit the like button on your way in. If you haven't done so, hit it on the way out. If you did not like this stream, well, if you didn't like the stream, you're probably not watching it right now, but hit that like button twice on your way out. That would help out the algorithms. But truly appreciate y'all being here. It's going to be a fun day. 2 games to talk about. We went through it all. I'll be posting my slip in the Discord. I already put in 2 plays. So I'm feeling good about those as well. And then we'll gear up for tomorrow's live stream, where we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 NBA games to talk about. We can also throw in some NFL action. We got 2 Saturday games, college football on the horizon, national championship game as well. Those player props are already out. So want to build a protected slip using plays outside of the NBA, we can definitely do that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's live stream. Again, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all the time you've taken to support this channel. And regardless of the player props you roll with, whether they're your own research, my plays, somebody else's plays, I hope that they all respect the damn coin. I wish you the best of luck. And until tomorrow's live stream, Chavez is out.